Hi everyone, thanks for making it Jamaica Magazine today. I am your host, Sandra Johnson. Today, Western Roundup returns and disaster mitigation is explored. We also get health-wise about the life-saving scale of CPR. Sit back and relax for these and other interesting features right after this important message.
It's absolutely critical that we receive the vaccines. You will see hospitalizations and indeed deaths likely come down. And so there is a lot of value to be gained by getting as many vulnerables on board as possible. So tell your mothers, tell your aunts, listen out for yourselves if you're over 60 and take the vax, because the vax is what will help you to guard against the COVID virus and indeed help your relatives, your friends, those who you come in contact with for the same benefit.
Do you know which wetland is the second largest to be found in Jamaica? Here's a hint. It spans the parishes of Hanover and Westmoreland. It houses the West Indian whistling ducks and the royal palm. If you guessed the Negril Great Morass, then you're correct. Today on Western Roundup, we head to Westmoreland, where we look at efforts by the Integrating Water, Land and Ecosystems Management in Caribbean Small Island Developing States IWECA project to restore and preserve the Negril Great Morass. If you're a lover of the environment, stick around. The Negril Great Morass is the second largest wetland in Jamaica and one of the largest natural coastal wetland ecosystems in the Caribbean. Through the National Environment Planning Agency NEPA, Jamaica's national sub-project under the IWECA project focuses on this wetland and its restoration and preservation.
The project aims to achieve several things, mainly the hydrological restoration of the Negril Great Morass. In the past, canals were put in to drain the morass, and that changed the ecosystem services provided by the area. So the main aim is to restore the hydrology.
Since the implementation of the project, which commenced in 2018, several activities have been undertaken aimed at achieving the project goals.
So the project will meet these goals through the implementation of various activities, chief of which is a lot of baseline studies are being conducted now, one is to determine the method that we use to restore the hydrology, which is to re-wet or rehydrate the morass. Others include a wetland assessment of other wetlands within the Negril EPA. Another is also population assessment of the West Indian whistling duck, which can be found at the reserve here where we're at.
These activities have been made possible through partnerships with agencies such as the Negril Area Environmental Protection Trust, NEPT, and other local stakeholders that have given their wave of approval and support for the project.
It has been a very interesting experience. This is a project that has been long in the making, especially addressing long-standing issues. So we are quite pleased with a number of the consultancies that has been executed, especially that relating to the hydrological surveys, given that the drying out of the morass, in particular the forest fires that result from the drying out of the wetland, understanding what kind of solutions will be presented is one of the things that I find most interesting and intriguing.
Very happy that the IWECA project is finally, taking place. This is something that we've been advocating for many years. Negril's environment and ecosystem is critical to the tourism product that we offer here. So the Negril Chamber and other stakeholders have been pushing for the preservation of the ecosystem.
Local farmers have also joined forces with the team to ensure best practices are being utilized on their farms.
It was a very enlightening venture because a lot of us farmers, we do not really practice. We used to practice best practice when it comes to farming. We also, sometimes when we get overwhelmed with the bush, we just cut and go through. We learned now that the burning in the morass, where the bush is concerned, is not good. So we have to eliminate as much as we can any form of burning. Use less pesticide, just the same, because it also contributes to the environmental bad practices.
So as the project progresses and stakeholders look toward the finish line, they wait with great anticipation the successful outcomes of this project.
Our greatest expectation is that there would have been the capacities of the organization within the area built to further sustain the results from the project.
Part of the IWECO project is the re-wetting of the morass. And that's the part that we're anxious to get to, where the water levels in the morass will be raised back to what it was in the past. And that will help greatly in our ecosystem. What has happened by the draining of the morass is that more of the nutrients from the morass is being sent out into the bay, into Long Bay, which is where our 7 Mile Beach is, and it is affecting the reefs and so forth. So if that is changed, then there will be less pollution in the bay, and therefore our reefs will hopefully recuperate, and it will protect the shoreline.
We have learned a lot about the usage of the greenhouse farming, which the farmers are very excited about. It's hard to do the seedling because of the heap of rain and all this kind of stuff. So the greenhouse farming, we understand, can yield a lot right through the year, and at the same time, less resistance from pests and rodents and stuff like that. So we really think that is a very good venture, and the farmers are really excited about it.
The 5-year project was launched in November 2018 and is being funded by the Global Environment Facility (GEF) through the United Nations Environment Program (UNEP), with support from the government at a combined cost of $13 million. We hope you enjoyed the program, and we encourage you to do whatever you can, wherever you are, to protect the environment. As usual, thanks for joining us for Western Roundup, where we take you from the corners of St. Elizabeth to the hilly terrains of St. Anne. Remember to send your feedback to jismobe@jis.gov.jm. Until next time, take care.
Hurricanes and floods are frequent natural disaster occurrences we have become accustomed to. They can wreak havoc on our lives and livelihoods. But if we all keep abreast and aware of the various precautions, we can minimize the risk. So in this next feature, we'll explore some of the important things you need to know to keep safe.
Every month of the year, there has been in our history some incidents of flooding that has taken place in some aspect of the country. And that is something that we have to take note of. Apart from monitoring and giving the forecast, we are also responsible for warnings. And so there are some warnings that we want you to take special heed to if you consider yourself to be vulnerable in any situation. When we speak about a flash flood watch, it means that there is a feature, some kind of weather system that is going to produce enough rainfall that makes it possible for you to get flooding. So it means start to watch, because the water levels are going to be increasing and there is the possibility of the flooding. Now, if we start to see that in some area flooding has started to occur, or if we believe that the flooding has been so close to an area that it is going to happen in that area in a short space of time, we will escalate that flash flood watch and refer to it as a flash flood warning. So when we talk about a flash flood warning, it means not only that the flooding is possible, but the flooding either has already started to happen or is going to happen in a very short space of time because it is very close to that area. So it is important to know what the watch means as opposed to what the warning means. Usually with the warning, we will not only issue a warning, but we will also tell you what kind of actions are important or what you should not do. Like, do not go through flooded waterways because it could pose a risk to your life and to your property. Also, if you live in low-lying or flood-prone areas, if it is an area that is regularly experiencing flooding, a flash flood warning for your area would mean that now is the time to move to higher ground because the flooding has already started or is going to happen very shortly. It is also important for us to know where we live, because sometimes in our messages we might not refer to the actual town, but we will tell you what part of the country the flood watch or the flood warning is relevant to. So if we talk about central parishes, we are referring to Clarendon. We're also talking about Manchester. We're also talking about St. Anne. These are central parishes. So you have to be knowledgeable of where you live so that you know whether the message actually applies to you. The messages that we issue for hurricanes and tropical storms are watches and warnings as well, like the flooding. But in this case, for a tropical storm or a hurricane, when we issue a watch, it means the conditions that are associated with the storm or the hurricane are possible within a certain time frame. If you hear tropical storm or hurricane watch, you could get the impact of that system within a day and a half, 36 hours. If we mention that it is a tropical storm or a hurricane warning, it means that you only have 1 day before that thing can affect you. So we are moving to how quickly you need to make sure that you are prepared by naming it a watch or a warning. So the watch is the first level of the alert that there is something that is likely to affect you. But when we move to a warning, it means now is the time to batten down because you most likely are going to experience that storm or hurricane. We might have a tropical wave, which is the least of them, in that it can still cause a lot of rain and it can still cause flooding and devastation, but it will not have very strong winds associated with it. But then there is the tropical depression that is a little stronger because now you have winds that are moving with it, gusty winds, and it also has a lot of rainfall. Then you have tropical storms, which is a more severe kind of tropical depression because the winds are even stronger. And then if it gets even stronger, it could become a hurricane. So it's important that you have your radio and that your radio is battery controlled, not dependent on electricity, so that you can hear the warning messages that come from the meteorological service. Also bear in mind that if you dial 116, you will be able to hear the latest message coming out of the meteorological service related to any warnings. We cannot stop paying attention. We cannot let down our guard. You have to prepare yourself and stay prepared until we are out of the threat.
On our roads, remember, take time, be courteous, drive good, walk good. Part of keeping our roads safe is ensuring the vehicles we drive are mechanically safe, meeting all roadworthy requirements. And besides that, we must be good drivers and avoid risk-taking and sensation-seeking behaviors which are prone to causing road crashes.
In this season of hurricanes, we're still talking disaster risk management. On that note, the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, has been implementing the Jamaica Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project. It's meant to strengthen the country's ability to withstand and recover from natural disasters. Keep watching to learn more.
Disasters are expensive. costing life and property and a great deal of money for cleanup and repairs. For Jamaica, our small size, location and topography means that the country is especially vulnerable to earthquakes, hurricanes and floods. While it's difficult to prevent these devastating events, there are things that can be done to reduce the damage. The Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project DVRP, funded by the World Bank and implemented by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, aims to strengthen the country's ability to withstand and recover from natural disasters.
It's a project that's going to be focused on physical infrastructure investments, equipping and institutional strengthening of the relevant governing agencies that are normally tasked to do this work. I'm talking about ODTEM, I'm talking about the Ministry of Local Government, through the Fire Brigade, through NEPA, through the National Works Agency, the Earthquake Unit at the University of the West Indies. These are normally the agencies that have to respond when natural disaster strikes.
Fire services are most critical in protecting life and property from not only fires but also other natural disasters. Under the Disaster Vulnerability Reduction Project DVRP, over 140,000 persons within the parishes of St. Mary, St. James and St. Thomas will benefit from 3 new fire stations that will be constructed and provided with rescue equipment to include protective gears and extrication tools.
Well, I'll feel a little more secure going away, know that I have fire service right next to me and they would be better able to respond to the event of a fire.
This new fire station means a lot to us in that it will give us peace of mind knowing that we are in a more secure building so that we can serve our community members better.
Even though Jamaica has not experienced a major earthquake since 1907, every year the country experiences over 200 minor tremors, and the threat of major devastation is always looming. When it comes to preparing for an earthquake, data collection is important as this helps in understanding the risk associated with this event and will inform policy towards strengthening the country's resilience. Through the DVRP, assistance will be given to the University of the West Indies Mona Campus Earthquake Unit, which is responsible for monitoring the country's seismic activities. All their seismic stations will be upgraded.
There's a number of different pieces of equipment we can receive. The first one is a series of seismometers, and these are digital seismometers. And these are to basically fit out the remaining stations with digital seismometers. So we're going to end up with those 10 stations completely upgraded and then add an additional station to it, so an 11th station there. So we're moving from, we've got analog to digital. Additionally, we have a series of accelerometers. And the accelerometers do a different thing. The seismometers are there to record the earthquakes and they don't get triggered early on. The accelerometers are really there to tell us how the buildings shake. What is the severity of the shaking that goes on? And the importance of that is that a building will survive up to a certain amount of shaking and then it will collapse and then it will kill people. We obviously want to understand across Jamaica how the acceleration changes, how when you get an earthquake, the building shaking changes across the island.
In an effort to address Jamaica's limited human capacity in the field of seismology, the project will fund a junior research fellow who will read for a PhD degree in seismology over a 3-year period and upon completion will be employed as a seismologist in the unit. Floods have large social and economic consequences for communities and individuals. When there's a heavy downpour, which is not unusual for the island, the lives of residents in many communities are disrupted. The project will see major infrastructure work done in Old Harbour and along Port Royal Street to limit the effects of rising and rough waters.
The improvement works in Old Harbour will include the expansion and the improvement of the urban drainage and also bridges. Myton Gully, Church Pen, those areas in Old Harbour, and Big Pond.
big plan whenever time it comes. I mean, no car can pass, flood out my house, wash our clothes, anything. You understand? So we'll be grateful for JSIF and everybody to come on for coming on board to fix it.
When the plan come over, it's hamper even to school children then. It is so dangerous that it take life already. When JSF and NWA are coming, come do this for me. Oh my God, just like that. We'd be so glad and happy.
Along Port Royal Street in Kingston, 2 kilometers of coastal revetments will be constructed and retrofitted. This will benefit the patrons and owners of the various business establishments located around this area, as well as users of the Norman Manley International Airport. And there's more.
There is also a very important, critical element of the DVRP, which is funding to support training on the building code. Jamaica is moving towards enacting a new code, and so it will be important that persons involved in the construction industry, the players in government, or professionals, engineers, architects, etc., are fully exposed and trained on this new building code, and the project will support that.
The total cost for the overall project is $42 million and is expected to be completed by 2022. The best time to prepare for a natural disaster is before it happens. Collecting information on disaster and risk reduction, constructing disaster-resilient buildings and structures will go a far way in limiting the cost of these natural hazards within Jamaica.
Someone collapses in your presence and you rush to check out what's wrong and offer some assistance. You might panic if you don't know what to do, and the person might die without immediate help. Watch this next feature to learn the life-saving technique of CPR.
Oscar! 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 Though this is a dramatization, it has happened quite often. In the field, at home, or at work, a loved one collapses and is unresponsive. What follows? Usually chaos, confusion, heartache, instead of immediately providing that critical resuscitation technique which may prevent death.
CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It is a skill that is an emergency skill that is used to revive someone whose heart has stopped beating. Cardiac arrest can happen to anyone at any time. In the event that happens, you need to know the skills that you need to perform to revive these persons or give these persons a chance of survival.
We never know when we can really in a situation where we need to help someone else. It's really just a little bit of your time, and I think it would be a worthwhile investment in learning these skills so we can render assistance.
Even when someone is choking, the techniques learned in CPR may be applied to save that person from asphyxiation. To release the person's airway, position yourself behind them and clasp your fist at the navel and roll in an upward motion. When someone is unresponsive, that's a whole other ballgame. The person may become unresponsive for several reasons. For instance, they could have a medical condition. To really know if someone is unresponsive and in need of CPR,
tap the person's shoulder and shout, "Sir, sir, sir," or "Ma'am, are you okay?" Once the person is not responding to you, and they can respond in several forms. They can answer by moaning, they can groan, they can open their eyes, they can move a limb. If the person is not responding to you, now you need to scan the chest and look if you see breathing. Once the person is not breathing, their terms as being unresponsive. So once you have somebody collapsing, the first thing you need to do is check your environment, ensure that your environment is safe for you. Once the environment is safe, now you need to assess the person who has collapsed. Once someone is unresponsive, has no signs of life, call for help and bare the person's chest. So you remove their upper garment. Find your hand position. It's on the lower half, center of the chest, lower half of the breastbone, and you push in 30 times at the Bee Gees song that's Staying Alive. Ha, 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 Staying Alive. If you are trained, after 30 compressions, you can give 2 breaths. If you are not trained, you don't know about CPR, you give hands-only CPR. So hands-only CPR is where you compresses the chest. You need to continue that on the way to the hospital, so you're maintaining cells' life.
It's possible for anyone and everyone to learn CPR.
Nannies, construction workers, teachers, lawyers, doctors, everyone should learn CPR. Once you're able-bodied, you can learn CPR.
In terms of age, it's said as young as 12 years old can learn the art to save a life.
So many times, children get in situations that they need assistance. In fact, a cousin of mine, her son got into some distress. She realized that he wasn't breathing one day, and she was able to help him by giving him CPR. So I think that was really important that she had those skills so that she could assist her son, because who knows what would have happened if she wasn't able to give him that immediate assistance.
This course, I've done it before, and I find it very interesting because I work a lot with children, and one time I have to do a CPR on a little boy because there was leave under my care, and mother wasn't around, and he was eating some plum and playing on a plum seed, stabbing his throat, and I just hear him coughing, but it never very severe because he was coughing. So when he was coughing, I hold him up and I try to do a little, I understand the CPR, tell him to cough. And he cough and cough until it actually come up.
I had a patient once, and while I was there in the bathroom with that person, the person just fell unconscious, and I was there, didn't know exactly what to do, but I was there saying, "Sir, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I didn't know much, what to do, but I decided to put the person on the side, and I was there trying to stop the person. Then I was saying to myself, if I had known CPR well enough, I could perform it.
The Heart Foundation of Jamaica is one of the several local organizations that offer training in CPR.
The Heart Foundation of Jamaica is an authorized training center for the American Heart Association. We offer CPR training for medical and non-medical persons. We have our scheduled in-house training, and organization can call us to schedule classes at their convenience.
CPR!
And this is where we end another wonderful journey through the pages of Jamaica Magazine. We value your company, so be sure to join us again tomorrow for another informative show. Until then, continue to watch these and other programs by logging on to our website, gis.gov.jm, or subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also find us on all the major social media platforms and through our mobile app that's Android and iOS compatible. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Sandra Johnson, reminding you to follow the COVID-19 protocols and keep safe.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.